today's video is obviously a little bit different than normal, seeing as I'm not, in costume. Today is going to be a Q&A video, because I've been getting a lot of questions lately on my process in making videos, in my background, in, all kinds of different stuff. So I decided for the 3,000 subscribers milestone. Thank you guys so much. I love you. Like, seriously, what? I was going to do a Q&A video for you guys. So I've got a whole bunch of questions, and I've kind of organized them into different categories that I hope will be easy for you guys to follow. I do have, I'll put the timestamps in the video as well in the description, so if you want to jump around a little bit, totally welcome to. And we're going to keep this ASMR too. We're going to keep it nice and chill. I might put in some like B-roll and stuff too. So if you're here for the ASMR, welcome. If you're here for the Q&A, welcome. Either way, I hope you enjoy. So let's get started. So first question, somebody asked me what my background is, like if I went to school for creative arts or something like that. I get that question a lot actually, so I thought that'd be a good place to start. I went to college with an interdisciplinary major, which is where you like combine a couple different majors and sort of make your own. But yes, the primary major that I studied was theater and theater arts. I went to college after high school thinking that I was just like primarily focused on acting, and that's just what I wanted to do, just acting, everything acting. But I went to a really amazing college with a really great theater program, and I got a chance to direct, I got a chance to manage, I got a chance to design and work on props teams, work like, behind the scenes stuff, work in like all these different positions that I hadn't really gotten a chance to try in high school. And I realized that there was a lot of different things that I loved, not just the acting, but everything that goes on behind the scenes too. So it was a great experience. I learned a lot. But because I was an interdisciplinary major, I didn't get to do like just all of the theater classes. I kind of had to pick and choose a little bit, unfortunately, because I had to like fit in all the other classes too. So I did not have any sort of training with cinematography or acting in front of a video camera. In fact, I had never ever done that before I started my channel. So acting, yes. Actual like recording and stuff, no, not at all. And the first few times that I recorded a video, I was just staring at the camera like, what do I do? It's obviously like some of it translates, but techniques and things, it is really, really different in a lot of ways. So that was definitely a learning curve, but it was a fun learning curve. And then things like, cinematography, setting up shots and B-rolls and lighting and editing, all that kind of stuff. I didn't have any of that in school either. Everything that I did was live theater. So that was all a learning curve from the University of YouTube tutorials. I watched so many videos before I started my channel, and as I was getting going on how to edit, how to set up shots, how to all that kind of stuff. So acting, character design, all that kind of stuff I had training on, but the whole video and like tech side of things, not at all. Next question was, what is my profession? I get that a lot too. I have some people who apparently think that I'm actually a professional actor. I'm flattered, but no. I am a mom. I have 2 young kids, and especially right now with COVID, I'm just home with them all the time. This fall, obviously, they'll be going to school, and then, I don't know, I might get something part-time. I've worked lots of other jobs in the past. I've worked as an early childhood educator. I've worked retail management, a couple other things, but right now I'm just at home with the kids, and I have my channel, and I have an Etsy shop, and I do some other things online and stuff, but no like profession, I guess. I'm a professional mom. No, I'm not a professional mom. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but you know, I try. I love my kids and I try. Okay, and then someone asked if I was pagan. I think this is probably because of some of the different things that I've featured on my channel, different festivals or traditions, things like that that happen within the world. So they wanted to know if I was pagan or just like the idea of a magical world. I am not pagan, but I don't know, I believe in the inherent magic and power in the world around us in different ways. I don't know, take that as you will, I guess. But I do love the idea of a magical world, and I like studying things like paganism and just some of their different rituals and the why behind it, I guess, I think is really, really beautiful in a lot of the different festivals and ceremonies and things that they do. So okay, so this next section is all going to be about sort of how I create my videos, different like the process that I go through on some of the more like tech side of things, behind the scenes kind of stuff, that sort of stuff. So the first question was, how do you make content with so much professionalism? And I asked that person to clarify kind of what they meant, and they were talking about like adding soundscaping and B-roll and things like that that kind of add like a different element to videos. Most of that is just stuff that I just started to do because I thought it was cool. There are a few bigger artists, ASM artists, that I really admire and love watching, like Goodnight Moon and Latte ASMR, and they both take a lot of time with all those little details. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do something similar, at least, and kind of be able to set a scene and sort of draw the viewer in and make it so that it felt like you were really there at this place. I knew that that was something that I really, really wanted with my channel. So a lot of that was just trial and error, kind of figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like, and obviously I'm still learning a lot. Not every video has soundscaping, but like if you're somewhere that there would be background sounds, I try to add them in. Sometimes I add them in and then I decide before I actually, hit export that I don't like it and end up taking it out because it just kind of takes away from the video. So I guess it kind of depends on how I'm feeling at the time and what I think is best. But yeah, I go through every setting and every video and I say, okay, like what would make me feel like I was there? What are the sorts of things that I would see, or the things that other people around me would be doing, that kind of stuff, and go from there. There's actually one of the principles of acting is it's called a circle of concentration or a circle of focus. And on a big stage, when you're acting, that means that it's basically like what the audience member is focusing on the stage. And throughout a production, it changes all the time. Sometimes it's, the whole stage. If it's like a dance number or a big scene with a huge crowd or something like that, then, they're looking at the whole scene and you want them to see the whole scene. But sometimes maybe it's just a smaller group of people up front that you want them to focus on, or sometimes it's even just one important prop that they need to see. And so in live theater, there are different techniques on how to draw the audience's attention to one space, whether that's through lighting, minimal movement and stuff going on elsewhere on the stage, just like the beats and like how you pace things can change that too. Luckily with cinematography, you just change the angle of the camera and you can draw somebody in, and if you want them to just look at a cup, then you can just record the cup and that's all they're looking at. So it was sort of a way to translate that into like actually making a video that feels a little more cinematic and a little more like drawing the audience member in. So that's that. Then someone asked, how many cameras or devices do I I technically have two. I pretty much always only use one. I have one pretty crappy camcorder, and then I have one slightly less crappy camcorder, but they're both not great. When I started, I would have both cameras going at the same time with different angles, and then I would, kind of cut and paste what I wanted in the actual video together. But I could tell a difference between the quality between my crappy camera and the slightly less crappy camera, so I don't like using the crappy one. I usually just film things multiple times with multiple angles, or if I want a different perspective, I'll stop and I'll move the camera and then I'll keep filming or something like that. So usually it's just the one camera. Occasionally I'll do both, but it kind of depends. I also do, sometimes with different videos, I'll film in segments. So like, for example, one of the potions videos where you're at the healer's cottage, there's usually an intro scene with the character where it's, them talking to the camera. And then there's the scene making the potion, which is more, focusing on the hands on the table. And then there's an outro scene. So in that case, it's pretty simple to just, film this part, and then film the middle part, and, put everything together. So I've gotten decently efficient at it, but there are still some times where I try to be fancy and I'm like moving the camera around all kinds. It's kind of crazy. I would not suggest that. I would suggest having multiple devices. It'd be much easier. Someone asked what I use for a green screen. Just a basic green screen that I bought off Amazon like almost a year ago now, I guess. It's just pretty inexpensive. It's like a 5x7. Are you a 5x7? I think it's a 5x7, something like that. What I have found with green screen is that it's more important to have good lighting and good editing, like editing software, as opposed to what you use for the green screen. So that's something that if you've been around for a while, you can probably tell I wasn't very good at it at the beginning and I've gotten better at it. A lot of that is because of editing software and just me learning more and playing around with stuff more and finding what works for me better. But yeah, that's what I use for green screen. Where do you store all your props? Anywhere. I have a lot of props, as you can probably guess, especially like with the healer's cottage. I have a bookcase with different cubes on it and different like storage things that are all labeled with the different characters or the different settings or whatever. And then I have one shelf that is all just a bunch of little bottles and vials and bowls and things like that for the healer's cottage, because that is by far my most extensive set, and setting all that up takes a while. But yeah, I try to be efficient with space. It's actually kind of good because it means that I have to stay organized. Like when I'm done with a video, I have to put things back because I don't have space for them otherwise. I am the type of person that, like when I create, I tend to create all over the place. I think a lot of creative people are like that. At least that's what I tell myself to feel better. So sometimes, it's easy to like make a big mess, but with having a system like that, I have to put things away and I have to like take care of things and make sure that everything from one video is away before I set up the next video. So it's actually been pretty good. And then I have a few larger props that I keep in my closet, like with all my costumes and stuff. But for the most part, most of my props actually fit on that one bookcase, which is actually pretty impressive if you think about it. Okay, what's your process when it comes to the look of the video? Wardrobe, makeup, background, etc., all that kind of stuff. My process. I think at least for like my Whisperwind videos, it's very much based on the character. All these different settings that I came up with for each of the different characters, it's more about them and their home and what they do and where they would be and what they would be doing and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of where I start with everything, is the character. And then from there, it's costumes. It's mostly what I can find at thrift stores and then alter to be what I want it to be. And makeup is, I'm actually really not good at makeup, you guys. Like, I'm actually really not good at makeup at all. But I spend a lot of time scrolling through Pinterest or just like watching tutorial videos on YouTube, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a good thing that I don't ever post like, this was the inspiration for this fantasy makeup look, and then like what I actually end up being, because it's usually totally different. But yeah, so it starts with the character, and then I sort of go from there with everything. Okay, this is one that I get a lot. Someone asked, how do I make it look like I have no or minimal cuts in my videos? Well, I can tell you I definitely don't just like sit down and record for 30 minutes perfectly and then woohoo, it's good to go. I have a lot of cuts, whether it's interruptions from, you know, outside noises or whatever, or whether it's me messing up and having to go back. I definitely have a lot of cuts. Now, luckily, there are a few little tricks that you can do to make cuts a little less frequent or a little less noticeable. First of all, if it's a part of a video where I am not talking, or I'm just doing a trigger, or when it's just silent and there's an isolated sound, you know, like someone slamming a car door or a dog barking or something like that outside, I will just keep going. And as long as I don't break character, then in editing, I can go back and I can edit that sound out. So I do that actually pretty often, like at least a couple times every video where I have to take a sound out. But as long as I just take a sampling, then you can't tell, then it's okay, and you're none the wiser. I also use B-roll a lot when I know that I'm gonna have a cut somewhere, and then I can go back to a section. Like for example, the Zot video that I just did recently. It's all just her, but then there were B-roll portions of her picking up different items from the table or pointing to different things like that. So when I messed up and I had to go back, I went back to a section where I know that like she would be pointing at something, and then I was like, okay, so when I film my B-roll, I'm gonna have B-roll of her pointing to that item, so then I can go from one cut to the next, and it'll seem like it's seamless. Things like that are, you know, just mostly how I do it. And then if I absolutely have to have a cut, I try really hard to not move as much as possible from one cut to the next, so that I can, you know, make that cut look as not noticeable as possible. Now sometimes if I have to like go back a ways, that's not always possible, but I try hard to be like, okay, was my hand up here? Was my hand down here? Was I holding this? Was I tapping over here, tapping over here? And sometimes when I go back in, I will start, if I'm not sure, like I'll tap over here, and then I'll tap over here, and then I'll tap over here, so that regardless of where I was, I can cut, you know, so that it looks more cohesive. So there are a few little tricks to, you know, making cuts not quite as noticeable, but I still definitely have cuts in my video. You can see them, I promise. If you're watching for them, you will find them. I definitely have cuts. Okay, and this next one I guess is not technically a question, but someone said it would be lovely to get behind the scenes videos of how you make props and setups and things like that. That is something that I have entertained for a little while, of having like kind of behind the scenes videos, but I honestly wasn't sure how they would like be received. I mean, I would still like have them be ASMR probably, but if that is something that you would like to see, give me a comment below telling me that you're interested in that. And, you know, if there's a few people who would like that, then, you know, I got nothing wrong with making those. It would be fun. I like making props. I like, you know, going through that process. And if I got to like walk you guys through that, or like makeup tutorials, that kind of stuff. Not that I'm good at makeup, but if anything, it would prove to you that anybody can do these looks. So maybe that would be the lesson from those. Anyway, if that's something that you would like to see, let me know below, and maybe we'll get some of those up. Okay, so that last section was more of like the technical side of things. This section is going to be more about the story and writing and that kind of stuff. I had a few questions about that. So someone asked, what started your imagination on coming up with the world of Whisperwind? Partially that was because it was a channel that I would want to watch. You know, there are a lot of really amazing ASM artists who do a lot of amazing role plays that, you know, are that draw you in, and you just want more and more and more of it. And the more that I found these stories, usually it's a channel where they do that sometimes, but they do other videos as well, which is totally great, totally awesome. But I was like, how cool would it be if there was a channel where every single video was in that world? And going to that channel was like getting to go to this other fantasy world. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, that would be so much work. And it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But it's something that the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this would be so cool to get to like offer people this sort of escape, I guess. Fantasy, whether it's books or TV shows or movies or something like that, it's always been a form of escape for me from, you know, the challenges of the world, whatever it is that I'm going through in life at a time. Like, I can retreat to my books for a little while, or retreat to a TV show or something, and just sort of have something else to focus on. And it's something that both like calms me down and, you know, just gives my mind something else to think about, something else to enjoy. So I wanted to take my love of ASMR and my love of fantasy and put them together and give that to somebody else too. So, and I spent about 6 months convincing myself that I should not do this because it was going to be a lot of work and it was going to be crazy. And I was like, well, maybe nobody else wants that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, whatever. Like, maybe I'm the only dork out there. But the more I thought about it, the more I like could not get it out of my head. So I started just jotting down little notes here and there of, you know, what sort of characters I could have, what sort of world it would be. And then, you know, all these characters started to just emerge. And some of them had a few different evolutions before we got to the actual characters that you guys see. But some of them haven't actually changed that much from those first little notes that I jotted down on the corners of receipts or, you know, takeout napkins or whatever. So, yeah. And then I'm trying to remember where Whisperwind came from. The name. I don't know. I think I was just kind of brainstorming, and I wanted the name of a town that sounded like, you know, sort of a small town that is maybe unassuming, but like has a lot of secrets and mystery and sort of intriguing things going on below the surface, and something that would also work for ASMR. So, yeah, I don't remember. I think I just wrote it down one day and I was like, Whisperwind. That sounds kind of cool. And then it just went from there. Okay, and then I had a few people ask me how I prepare role plays, whether I write them all out and memorize a script, or whether it's all like improvising or, you know, just kind of winging it. Usually it's a little bit of both. It really depends on the video, I guess. When I first started my channel, it was pretty much all scripted. And it wasn't necessarily that like I would sit there and memorize it word for word, but I would type it out almost word for word with like what I wanted to say and the points that I wanted to make. And then I would create sort of a bullet list of that, you know, with the main points and the order that everything went in. And then I would just kind of have that like taped somewhere near the camera that I could glance at. And then I would just like read the script over a couple times, like as I was getting ready to film the video, and then I would film it. But sometimes with that, like I got hung up on certain phrases that I wanted to say or things like that. So it wasn't super efficient. It was also probably just because I was just starting out and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was not confident in front of a camera for the first several videos. I started out that way because, especially like with different story elements going on, I wanted to make sure that everything was cohesive, and that like if I mentioned something in a video, you know, a month ago, I could go back and look at the script and remember the little details of, you know, different names that I said, or just different things that were true about the world, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess anything up like that, because I was really afraid of having inconsistencies and having people point them out. But since I've gotten more comfortable with like filming and stuff, and since I think I've gotten more comfortable at actually like incorporating ASMR into scripts, it's a little more just improvised, especially you know, different sections, like when I'm doing you know, the light exams or measuring, or, you know, any of those kinds of things. All of that is mostly just improvised. I still, depending on the video, I'll still maybe make a little bit of a list of like, okay, I want to do this first, and then this, and then this. Like the Zot video that I did a little while ago. I had all the items out on a table, and then I made the list of the like 4 or 5 items that I actually picked up and showed you and talked about. And I didn't actually write that down, but I kind of went over it in my head of like what I'm gonna say roughly about each of these different items. Yeah, that's actually most of like the extent of script writing that I do now. Besides the Origin series, which we will be getting back to hopefully soon. That one I do actually write out, because that's like Cleo reading a journal entry, and so it's okay for her to be reading it because she is reading it. So that one is the one exception that I will probably still be writing scripts. Now for like different story elements and just making sure that everything is, you know, cohesive and I'm not like contradicting myself, I have a couple different notebooks that I just jot things down. So I have like a list of secondary characters that I'm like, okay, well, I've never actually like said all that much about this character, but here's a name that I could use, or here's that, you know, that kind of thing. Just so I can keep a record and keep everything straight. Okay, and then someone asked, do you develop your characters or do they mostly just appear in your head? I like that question. It's definitely a little bit of both. I think when I first started out kind of jotting down ideas for characters in Whisperwind, once I decided that it was going to be sort of a medieval-ish D&D-esque type of world, and I knew that it was going to be like a smaller village, I was like, okay, well, what type of people would you have in this village? You would have, you know, a tavern girl, you would have a cook at the tavern, you would have, you know, this person or that person or whatever. So I started jotting down like little ideas like that, and from there most of them have just kind of grown on their own. Which sounds weird. I don't know, maybe that sounds weird to people who aren't like writers, but they did just kind of take on a life of their own. Also, Penham, who is the ghost that you met in the Whisperwind Monster Hunter series, and the founder of the town of Whisperwind hundreds of years ago, that character just completely like came out of nowhere, and it was actually really fun. She, like, I had no plans to have her in the story, at least like in the first few months of me kind of writing stuff out and figuring it out. And then one day I was just like, I need a ghost in town. Her name's going to be Penham. Oh, she's the founder of the town. And then I just kind of spiraled from one thing to another. And she's actually very important to the story and to our traveler's quest and what he's doing. She's going to be very, very, very important one of these days, once I get my head screwed on straight and can actually like write story things more. But yeah, she's important. And that was something that was actually kind of a complete surprise to me, which was super fun, actually. I love those moments. Also, sometimes, quite honestly, I create characters and I create stories based on random weird things that I find in thrift stores or that I just find laying around and I see it and I'm like, that's weird. I could do a whole video about that. And it just goes. So it's kind of a little bit of both, I guess. Okay, and then someone asked, how do you plan your story arcs and build the world of the stories? For that, I don't know, usually it's something that makes sense, like with the overarching story, and then I just kind of take little pieces of it and say, okay, I want to focus on this character a little bit more, or I want to focus on this event or something like that, and have it sort of develop from there. Now, that being said, with my Journey to Eshon series, that series was only supposed to be like 4 or 5 videos long, and I think it ended up being 13, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of those series that, like, it was just going to be like this, and then you go to the library, and then you go home, and that was it. And it just kept evolving, and I was like, well, we're in this cool city, like, we gotta explore it. And then, you know, all these other characters came out of nowhere, like the town crier. That was like, I was thinking, I was like, I need some sort of a video to, like, introduce the traveler to the city of Eshon. I was like, well, who would be around in that time that would, like, introduce somebody that would serve as sort of a guide? And then I heard town crier in my head, and I was like, that's literally, like, exactly the opposite of ASMR. How am I going to do a town crier in ASMR? But I, like, could not get it out of my head. So then the town crier was born, and then she pointed out all these other places on the map, and I was like, well, now I got to have all those other places on the map. So we just kind of went with it. And yeah, that was definitely a series that evolved as it went. But it was a lot of fun because it did that. So, you know, sometimes it's something that is very well planned out, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something that the story tells itself. Okay, now we're getting to some questions that are specifically about Whisperwind and, you know, the world of Whisperwind. Now, this isn't going to have any spoilers in it because I don't want to ruin any of the surprises or anything like that. I don't like spoilers, but it's just a few things kind of going more in depth into Whisperwind, kind of daily life stuff, that sort of stuff. So the first question is, what's the town hangout in Whisperwind? For the most part, it would probably be the tavern. Because Whisperwind is a pretty small town, there's not like, there's not like a whole lot of recreation. For the most part, it's farmers and some fishermen, and then some people who have lived there for years, and, you know, their families have lived there for forever, and that's pretty much it. And then, of course, you have your oddball, like Rhea or Isabel or something that, you know, we know both of their backstories and kind of why they're in Whisperwind now, I guess. But yeah, so for the most part, there's not like a lot of places to just like hang out, but the tavern sort of became that. Actually, when Isabel and Merrick moved to Whisperwind, there really wasn't a place like the tavern, and that's why Merrick wanted to open a tavern, to give these people who work hard somewhere where they can just go and relax and, you know, have a hot meal, have a couple of drinks, or just be there, you know, just hang out. So yeah, usually the tavern, and then also the town square. Obviously, when it's winter and snowy, there's not much going on there, but in the summers, there's a marketplace that happens about once a week. All the farmers kind of bring their wares into town, and the town square is bustling and a fun place to be. So during the summer months, it could possibly be there too. Okay, and then someone asked about the traditions in Whisperwind as far as like dancing and partying and that kind of stuff. That those are cute questions. For the most part, I think like dancing and fun like that is usually centered around festivals that they have. Most people in this kingdom, there's not like a really solid religion, I guess, like as far as the humans go, but the elves worship the Lady Fate. That's sort of their like main deity, and then there are a few other goddesses beneath her. So some of those traditions have remained in the kingdom of Maladia even after the elves left. There are still, you know, the Church of the Lady Fate in pretty much every city around. And some of the festivals, you know, it's kind of like Christmas. Like, Christmas has a lot of religious connotations, but not everybody celebrates them. But a lot of people celebrate, you know, more of the secular idea of Christmas or like other things that have come from that. So I think it's kind of a balance, you know, as to like if it's actually religion or if it's just a ceremony and a time of remembrance or things like that, like with the Winter Solstice Festival that we had in Whisperwind, that kind of stuff. And then someone asked if there is a town mascot. And I hadn't thought about this at all, but absolutely there is. And it's a goat, and her name is Penelope. And she is old, and she is blind in one eye, and she gets out all the time, like of the farmers, the farm that she lives on, and is kind of the town pest, like, you know, because goats eat everything, so she'll go around and she'll eat people's, like, flower gardens or get into Rosie's vegetable garden. Then there's hell to pay. But yeah, she's sort of a lovable irritant, I guess. So thank you for that question, because I had completely not thought about that. And as soon as I read it, I was like, yes, and it's a goat and her name is Penelope. And then it was great. So maybe I'll have to make a video talking about Penelope the goat now. Yep, I think that's going to happen someday. Okay, and then someone asked, are we going to visit other towns or cities in the kingdom? Absolutely, we are. I had a lot of fun working on the Eshon series, and I'm glad that you guys seem to enjoy it too. It was fun to get to go somewhere else, because Whisperwind is a rather small town, and there's a lot of secrets and a lot of stories still to be told within Whisperwind. But it's fun to get a different perspective and sort of a bigger perspective, I guess, on just like how the rest of the kingdom works as well. So it was a lot of fun to work on. And if you go back to the video where Victoria walks you through the world map and like shows you all the different cities, I have actually like taken the time to develop each of the different cities a little bit, and I can tell you interesting things about each of them. So if we go on an expedition to another city, I can absolutely fill it with fascinating people. So definitely we'll be exploring more. So I'm really glad that you guys liked the Eshon series, because I liked making it. So, and there's a lot of story. There's a lot of stories still to be told. So yeah, we'll get there. Don't you worry. Alright, and then this last set of questions is just, they were just more like get to know you questions about me. So if you don't care, that's okay. I know that you're here for the characters and the story and all that, and maybe not necessarily just Sage, but if you'd like to know more about Sage, here's a little bit more about Sage. Okay, so first of all, this is a question that nobody like specifically asked me for this video, I guess, but I get asked it all the time, and I know there's probably a lot of confusion about it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and answer it once and for all. People ask me how old I am all the time, and I get anywhere from like 12 to like 18 and sometimes maybe 20. I'm actually 26. Actually, I'm almost 27. Like by the time this comes out, I'm going to be 27 in like 2 weeks or so. So I'm not 18. I'm not a teenager. I'm a mother of 2 children. I'm married, and I'm 26, almost 27 years old. Okay, next question. If you could reside in a fantasy realm, which would you choose? That's almost an impossible question, just because there are so many great worlds out there. Right now, I think I would choose the world of Avatar, The Last Airbender. I've been watching through it again, and it is a lot of fun. So, but only if I could be a bender. Not that the non-bender characters are not awesome too. In fact, one of my favorite characters is Sokka. I think he doesn't get enough credit. But, yeah, I would want to be a bender. Probably a water bender. Although I don't know. I mean, airbending would be cool too. But I think personality-wise, I would probably be more of a water bender. But appearance-wise, maybe more of a fire bender. I don't know. Either way, whatever. As long as I got to be a bender, I would be happy. Someone asked what my favorite color was. Midnight blue, or like a dark blue, kind of like this. Yeah, I mean most shades of blue, I guess, but definitely like the darker, like nice rich blue is my cup of tea. I also like black a lot. dog is definitely up there. Okay, this one, they asked it and I thought it was a joke, but then at the end they said serious questions. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to answer it. Someone asked, why are you so gorgeous? This is a friend of mine, another ASMR artist. Love you, Julie. Makeup and lighting and camera angles. That's it. That's it. I'm actually very much not like special looking in real life. I promise. It's just the camera. Oh yeah, and then I had a couple questions that I hope I don't lose any followers over this one. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Why or why not? My gut instinct is to say no. But I know that if I say why, I don't really have like a good reason why. And if I say that, people are going to debate it. So let's just leave it at, personally, I don't think so. But if you want to believe that a hot dog is a sandwich, then you go right ahead. It's fine. Like, I'm not upset that you think that. I hope you're not upset that I think no. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that until I got asked it, and I was like, I don't know. Anyway, I would probably say no. Okay, and then that same person asked, what's the best Wi-Fi name you've ever seen? I love this question. I don't think I've ever heard anybody ask this question before, but I love it, and I have actually a good answer for it. Because I saw this name online a while ago, like years ago, and it is now the only name that I name my own personal Wi-Fi. So if ever you are living somewhere and you see, scrolling through different Wi-Fi names, you see this name, you might be my neighbor, because it's what I always do no matter where we live. It is Bill Y, the Science Fi. And it's so dorky, and I love it. It's actually a good sort of summary of my life. But yes, Bill Y, the Science Fi. That's our internet name all the time. Okay, and then I love this question too. If animals could talk, which would be the rudest? I just love that. My gut instinct is to say a cat. Now, don't get me wrong, I love cats. I've always had cats. And I've had some cats that are super, super sweet, and then I've had some cats that are just bitches. And they're still like sweet and like lovable bitches, but definitely bitches. So probably a cat, or maybe like one of the big cat breeds, like a tiger or like a panther or something, all like super high and mighty, but also very powerful and like on top of the food chain where they are. So like they kind of get to be all high and mighty. I could see that. So yeah, I could see that as being the rudest animal. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess maybe some different types of birds would be rude. Not necessarily as like a condescending rude, but just like a very loud-mouthed, never like having a filter kind of rude. I could see that too. So I guess either one of those that you want to believe. Yeah, those are my opinions anyway. And on that note, we are at the end of our list of questions. So thank you so much to those of you who asked questions. If you have any other questions that you would like to ask, go ahead and shoot me a comment down below, and I will try to get through all of them. Every once in a while I miss somebody, and I'm really sorry. I try to get all the comments. But yeah, if you want to ask any other questions, go right ahead. And thank you guys again so much for 3,000 subscribers. Like, I'm just kind of blown away, but really, really thankful for all of you. So thanks for joining me on this adventure. It has definitely been an adventure, and there's a lot more adventure to come. So, Sage out.